Welcome back to another episode of Bombshell1111 Girl Talk Series Podcast. Bombshell1111 is a platform created to teach ways to nourish the mind, body, and soul. This platform allows this podcast to create weekly content on podcasts with special guests each week that will stimulate your spiritual, mental, and physical growth. The podcasts are played on social media platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, Anchor Radio Station, Apple Podcasts, and more. This station has been created to allow us to interact with each other to share knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and light. So without further ado, please help me welcome your host and founder of Bombshell 1111 Girl Talk Series, Kia.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bombshell 1111 Podcast. My name is Kia, and I'm your host. Also joining me is my co-host, Aziza. Aziza, you want to say what's up to the audience?
Peace and power, people.
So, you guys, tonight we have a very special guest out of the Dallas, Texas area, and our topic tonight is going to cover mass incarceration and Black injustice. So, without further ado, please help me welcome our gracious guest, Mr. Baba Amin out of Dallas, Texas. Welcome.
Peace and power, Black power, peace and love to everyone. Ain't it just beautiful to be Black today?
You damn right.
Everybody trying to love on us all over the world or whatever, but we've been loving on ourselves, so it's all good.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of Bombshell 1111. Aziza and I, we are very thankful for you coming on and coming on to help share knowledgeable information to the Black community about something that I think in Aziza as well is an important topic: incarceration and Black injustice. Especially with what the most recent events that just happened with the George Floyd tragedy. So we wanted to come on, and hopefully the information that you share will touch someone today and also educate them as well.
I say. Well, hopefully we can provide some context, a little historical context to everything that's going on, and maybe give us some perspective as a community so we can start talking about what we're going to do next.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's just jump right into it. So, Baba, I mean, Aziza and I, we are familiar with who you are, but for the audience and those who don't know, can you give an introduction and let them know who you are, where you're from, and what is your venture or your journey?
All right. Well, my name is Baba Amin Imamu Ojuwoke. I am from Fort Worth, Texas, which is outside of Dallas, but shout out to Funky Town. We are our own city. I'm born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. Most importantly, I'm a husband and a father of 8. Let's bring the Black family back. Shout out to my beautiful, beautiful wife, Nkoyo Ojuwoke, who takes care of me, sustains me, my divine compliment. And shout out to all my children. I am an education activist. I am a hip hop activist as well. I'm an independent educator. I am the co-founder, along with my wife, of the Uhuru Academy. We were Fort Worth's first African-centered private school, founded in 2010. We just celebrated completing our 10th year. We now have a full-time online program, as well as programs that we've helped start in Houston, the Prince Circle of Legends Academy, started by the Prince family, Jay Prince and Ashley Prince, as well as where we are right now at the Uhuru Academy, South Carolina. In Columbia, South Carolina, who just finished their 5th year. So that's who we are. Education is my thing. And reaching out and teaching Black people and teaching us our story and helping us uplift ourselves is our thing. I'm also the founder of the Temple of New African Unity, which is a spiritual center where our only religion is Black folk coming together.
Aziza, I'm done with the interview.
No. I have no more No, we not done, but woo, that was powerful.
That was very powerful. Like, yeah, oh my God, that's a great attribute back to the Black community. That's a lot.
I say, well, you know, we've been blessed by the Creator and the ancestors to be able to dedicate our life to serving our community and to be able to do it in creative ways where I can sustain my family at the same time.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Awesome.
With that being said, in your primary focal point is education.
Yes.
Tonight's topic is mass incarceration and Black injustice. Can you help the audience, for those who don't understand that terminology, what exactly does that mean for us within the Black community, mass incarceration and Black injustice?
Okay. Well, first, mass incarceration is a term used to denote a situation where a nation is incarcerating or putting people in jail at a disproportionate rate. Okay. Mass incarceration is a situation where you have a country like the United States where we basically, jail is like the meet all end all for all crime. Whether it's violent crime, non-violent crime, whether you owe some money, whatever it is, jail is attached to it. And as a result of this jail or this slavery mentality, you have a situation where the United States, even though it only makes up about 5% of the world population, we hold over 25% of the world's prison population. By far, and this is the land of the free, but by far, there are more citizens incarcerated in the United States than anywhere else in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it hasn't always been like this. You know, as when we talk about in relation to the Black community, we kind of are the inspiration for mass incarceration in the United States, because prior to slavery ending, 1865, America was actually known as being one of the most lenient countries in the world when it came to incarceration, when our ancestors were enslaved. Mm-hmm. Once we were emancipated, slavery ended. You had forces in this country that want to reinstitute slavery as much as possible. And that's when the whole incarcerate for everything philosophy came about in the late 1800s and early 1900s, when it became fashionable to railroad Black people into prisons. And you actually had a lot of former slave plantations transform into prisons. You had situations like what they call peonage, where you may get caught for vagrancy just hanging out outside a store. They'll lock you up, and the next thing you know, you at a labor camp to pay off a fine. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to be there for 6 months, you end up being there for 6 years. Mm-hmm. So not only did mass incarceration come into play, but also over sentencing came into play, and it was the freedom of Black people that sparked that philosophy.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. With that background and that knowledge and history of knowing a little bit about where mass incarceration started from, Black injustice, now today in 2020, how does the mass incarceration and Black injustice affect the Black community?
Well, there's still almost 2 million Black people in prison in America today, or either in prison or being touched by the criminal justice system. That's one direct way. We're only 14% of the United States population, but we're over 30% of the prison population. When you throw in brown people, then you get upwards of 55% of the prison population in America today. We all know that once you are incarcerated, there's an 85% recidivism rate. That means most people who get locked up one time end up going back, re-entering into society after you're incarcerated. A very difficult task, a very hard thing to do. As a matter of fact, they say that you are 50 times less likely to find employment than anybody else if you've been incarcerated in the United States. So mass incarceration affects us economically in that way. Mass incarceration also affects us in the sense that our families are being torn apart. We have more nonviolent drug offenders incarcerated out of the Black community than any other community in the world. You know, and so Ronald Reagan, we can thank him for that. While he was allowing crack to hit the streets, at the same time he was laying down heavy laws that would make sure people got heavy sentences. sentences for the drug that he allowed to come into the streets. He was kind of getting revenge. People don't know that Reagan was the governor of California when the Black Panthers were making him look stupid in the 60s.
I know it.
So in the 80s, he came and got revenge. The 1994 crime bill, your boy Joe Biden, working with the most racist man, one of the most racist men in the history of the U.S. Senate, Strom Thurmond, wrote the 1994 crime bill, which basically paid states to incarcerate people at an alarming rate. And you know, it's capitalism too. So these policies attack poor people to keep you poor. But of course, we are disproportionately that class of working class poor people. So it hit us hard as well. It hit us hardest. We still haven't recovered from the mass incarceration boom of the 1990s. That you know, by the time Clinton left office, the United States had an economic surplus because of all the money being generated through prison. Prison is big business, huge business in the United States.
Speak on it.
Wow.
So I hope that helped answer that question.
That definitely helped answer that question. I think that'll lead into a good segue with Aziza. Aziza, you want to jump in?
Yes, I do. The love I have of Uhuru Academy, that's overstood. Yes. For the audience, the importance of Afro-centered education, especially in Black males, because I'm living this, and Baba, you know this, so I don't mind sharing it with the masses. You know, the elementary to prison pipeline, because they already have an algorithm based on socioeconomic status, your household. If there's a man missing, if there's a male member that has been a part of this, that Black males by the time of 3rd or 4th grade are going to go to prison. So Afro-centered education, because we allow them to teach our children, and for those of us who have to reteach them to prepare them for the world outside of the schoolhouse that they go to every day as far as a public school, we know that Afro-centered education is not at the focal point. So how do you feel the importance of Afro-centered education, whether you're doing it in the home or whether there's somewhere like Uhuru Academy, can assist with the elementary to prison pipeline, especially for our Black males?
There's no secret that the United States is made up of different cultures and different ethnic groups. And if you're a marginalized group like African people, a group that's been attacked like Black people have, I mean, since we've been here, it is very important that we have an education system set up that's centered around our repair and centered around our success. And if you're going to do that, you have to center it around our story. It is a death sentence to integrate into a public school system that's going to teach you that the very people who oppressed you founded civilization, which is not true. That the people who oppressed you taught you how to read and write, which is not true. And it's almost like, well, yeah, they enslaved us, but boy, without them, we still be in the jungle swinging from trees, which is not true. And it also makes you feel like a Johnny come lately to the game. That's why when you went to class in school, people say, why you acting white? Well, what a compliment it must be to white people. So when someone does something right, they're accused of acting white. If you learn how to read, you're accused of acting white. You understand what I'm saying? Almost like you're betraying who you are, like it's not in your nature. African-centered education destroys that mentality. African-centered education gives our children ownership of what they learn. It basically, they learn math, science, grammar, everything from the perspective of their ancestors and from the perspective of our walk in that discipline. In my math class, all of my students understand the African origins of math. Not saying that other people didn't do great things with math once they got it, but we're not going to exclude our contribution to it. You know, how many of our children treat math like it's from another planet? But everything is math. Math is an African system developed by African people for the sole purpose of studying nature. That's all it is. And finding a balance in nature. Astronomy was created by African women. Farming and agricultural science comes from African women. It's important that our children go to school and they see those early kings and queens and civilization builders, those engineers, and understand that that's our stuff. the first books ever written were written by African people. So when you want to write, you being black, you acting black, you ain't acting white. Boy, that's mighty African of you. You trying to do your homework. You must want to be like Imhotep.
That's right. That's
you know what I'm saying? Acting so black, right? But you're in a society where acting black, because you're being taught from a Eurocentric perspective, all your definitions of black people are negative. So when something wrong happens, what we say, I know he was in there acting his color. But what was his color? Somebody say that. He must have been black, right? So, and where did that definition come from, right? You in a school that teaches you that the father of this country, one of the founding fathers, was Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence. But what they don't tell you is that he also wrote the Notes on the State of Virginia. See, my students know this Thomas Jefferson. In that document, he said, now, when I said all men are created equal, I wasn't talking about black people. They're not all the way human. They're subhuman. He said we stink. He said we're lazy. He said we're childlike. Right? Yes. He said we lust after white women. Matter of fact, he say all the things that black folks say about black folk on their timeline today. Why?
Woo!
Because that we've been African-centered education destroys that.
Well, just, personally for me, Baba, I got put out of class in the 3rd grade when I refused to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know the words to it still. I don't know the words to their anthem. I was fortunate enough to come home from the schoolhouse and had parents that had maps, books, encyclopedias. Find my truth. So that was a very, very good point, because our children are afraid to be smart.
Yeah, they're afraid to be smart, and they're leaving school without a plan, because it's not just about. We don't use the history so we can get stuck in the past or get angry. We use the history to build our confidence so we can prepare our children for the future, right? And so inside of an African-centered education, like, I won't graduate my students without a plan. I gotta know what you're gonna do. You going to college? Why are you going to college? What do you want to study? You want to start your own business? Why do you want to start your own business? What business are you going to start? What's step 1? What's step 2? What can the school and the community do to support you, right? So African-centered education is also empowerment-based education. Our children, our junior high children in the Uhuru Academy, they learn about real estate. They have a real estate class. They don't, you know what I'm saying? They're learning entrepreneurship skills at our elementary level. So it's about, what are you going to do with it? Now that I've called you a king and queen, now that I've showed you these contributions, there's nothing out here that you can't accomplish. And it's also about preparing our children to be global citizens. There are opportunities out here for you all over the world, not just in the United States. Our children may have to migrate, y'all, because they're going to inherit all of these issues. Right. If we're not empowering them to move around, if they need to move around, then what are we doing? We're basically handing down our prison sentence to our children. And so African-centered education is about broadening their scope, so they won't be fighting injustice 30 years from now, singing the same songs, doing the exact same thing that we're doing now to fight injustice. We're answering the same questions and fighting for the same things that our elders fought for 60 years ago. We haven't been prepared to take things to the next level, and so African-centered education is about doing that.
I love how you said that, Baba, that African-centered education is empowerment. That's what I drew up from that. It's the education, but it's empowerment. And I know those students, they learn the stocks and everything. I've watched Uhuru and see what they do. And congratulations on their graduation ceremony, which is a great segue into my next question. It's really a declaration. Yes. It's not even a question. How many, because you said they are graduating with a plan, and we have not. We have fallen short of passing down these things, these psychoses, and the what am I going to do next? And the block ends up being where they go, because that's what's familiar. Some of them may want to go into a religious place, but that don't really sit right with them either, because they see what's going on in the world around them. How many graduates did Uhuru have this year?
Well, I didn't have any seniors in my high school this year, but we also have our Operation Reconnect adult program. So I work with adults between the ages of 16 and up, who stopped out of school. And I've already graduated 7 this year, with a plan, and so these are people, we believe you can't scream Black power if you don't empower Black people. And the Uhuru Academy is completely private, y'all. So when I say it's power, we graduate our people with our own credential, and we back our credential up, and we batting 1,000. If any college, any institution wants to question our paperwork, I'm ready for them. We've been ready for them. And so our graduates go on to school, they go on to get jobs, they go on to do whatever it is that they want to do. And so we've already graduated 8 adults this year. Of course, we have a few children that moved up from kindergarten to 1st grade. We held a graduation from them. We had some 5th graders to graduate from 5th grade and go on to 6th grade. And it's beautiful because we're working our campus. We have a beautiful 4-acre campus here in Columbia, South Carolina. But we also have about 20 students that are with us full-time online. They're homeschooled through the Uhuru Academy full-time every day as well. So it's good, and it's growing, and it's a powerful thing. We just started our summer program, starts tomorrow morning as well. We do an online summer school as well. So, yeah.
Whoa. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's very powerful, especially for the young adults, because that's when you need to start instilling those different values and things in them, right, in order for them to be successful Black Americans.
Yeah.
With that being said, I do have 2 questions for you, but with everything that you said, it kind of I want to ask you another question. In reference to your academy, is it predominantly just for those individuals that live in Texas, or do you offer services to anyone globally?
We're full-time online now, so we're global.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, we have students enrolled I have students enrolled in 8 different states right now.
Whoa, okay.
Yes, we're global. So as long as you could be on this line at 9 a.m. Eastern Monday morning, you can enroll in the Uhuru Academy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
At the end of the podcast, I'm going to allow you some time to provide your contact information and things of that nature, just in case there's parents that's listening tonight that may be interested in getting their child involved. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think this is Aziza. I want to also give a shout out to Aziza really quick, because you are Aziza's special guest, and she wanted to bring you on, and she thought you'd be very influential. And I'm kind of taken back. I had more questions than I initially had. Aziza.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that and I talk. So for me to have a loss for words.
Y'all have to invite me back sometime.
Definitely.
That's all.
Because again, it's very, very influential to the Black community. And with that being said, can you also help the audience understand when it comes to especially the young African American men and women too, but more so men, when it comes to racial profiling? What is racial profiling, and why should people within our Black community be concerned with racial profiling in 2020?
Okay. Well, racial profiling, just to give a brief definition, racial profiling is when a specific group is considered to be a suspect for a crime, or it's made okay for law enforcement to pull over, harass, even detain and arrest a specific group of people because they quote unquote fit a particular description. That means that your law enforcement agency has said the typical criminal looks like this: a young Black male between the ages of 16 and 24, and he typically dresses like this. So when you see them in New York stop and frisk policy that they just abolished a few years ago, was a huge example of racial profiling. It's basically permission to pull over and harass people, Black people, and it affects us because it's a way to stunt our growth economically and politically. Y'all, this is all business. Black failure is big business. So when law enforcement is patrolling a working class community and you're a working class man going to work every day, but you don't quite have your insurance caught up on your car or that sort of thing, the system is there to bully you. They're going to pull you over. They're going to check your tags. They're going to check why you don't have this. And then they're going to mercilessly give you a ticket. Mercilessly give, when your son is walking home from school, they're giving the green light to say, you know what, stop that young man. He might just be on his way home to do his homework, but stop him and remind him of what his place is in society. Demoralize him. And I don't think we pay enough attention to the emotional and spiritual and mental anguish that our people go through. The stress. Y'all, stress is the number one killer, in America. It is not cigarettes, it's stress. And I don't think that we talk about the stress and the effect that it has on our mental health enough, when it comes to being profiled. And then we begin to profile ourselves. So now you watch children grow up and they lay the low expectation on themselves before society even does it. So now, we like, you're not a nigga. Now I'm a real nigga. It used to be, don't call you, you're not a B, you're not B. Now it's like, I'm the baddest bitch. You know what I'm saying? And so now we start internalizing and we begin to profile ourselves and we begin to perpetuate the very stereotypes that Thomas Jefferson laid down for us back in the late 1700s and that white America promotes today. The rapper with the powerful message can hardly get signed. But the rapper that's going to perpetuate these stereotypes, all type of opportunities are laid out for you.
Woo, boy! I gotta wrap back around to what you had said, Bob, about racial profiling, and it just it triggered something in me that I lived. My son was detained unlawfully for over 5 hours in the 8th grade, and he ran because he supposedly fit the description, and he was unlawfully detained. I didn't know where he was. And when you spoke of the trauma, he's 22 and he has not forgotten that. We were just building on that last night over the phone when he called, because all I can remember seeing was a look of fury in his eyes, and the officer wrote him a ticket for a bike that didn't exist. And he told me, I know what his name means. You better be glad I'm a Christian, because I'm sick of the saggy pants and the gold teeth bringing down the property value of the community. So I said,
as if sagging pants and gold teeth actually drive down property value.
But in the 8th grade, Emmanuel had braces, a Hollister t-shirt on, Sperry boat shoes, and some Gap cargo pants.
Wow. Yeah.
And he got a ticket for a bike that didn't exist, for theft over 100 but less than 200. And I had to get a lawyer and go to court. And my son asked me at 14, can they do that to me? And I said they just did.
They just did. And then coming after your pockets because you had to get a lawyer. What about that family that can't even get a lawyer? What about that youth that doesn't have a support system at home? I've seen young people railroaded into youth prisons, railroaded into juvenile detention centers simply because they had nobody to stand up for them. Now, what is their outlook on life? Do you think there's counseling available for them? Do they go to schools that did your son have someone to go to at the school the next day to talk about their trauma, or did he have to get in line, go to class, and do everything like everybody else?
He had to just.
And we're taught to internalize that. But guess what? Pressure bust pipes. It's gonna come out one way or the other. And once you convince some people, especially strong people, once you convince us that it ain't fair, then ain't none of it fair then. I don't have to respect any law.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, and that's what we tell our children. When you ask a Uhuru Academy student, why don't we pledge allegiance to America? They say because America hasn't pledged allegiance to us.
Hey,
we don't have to pledge. We don't have to pledge our allegiance. We pledge our allegiance through 300 years of slavery. We pledge our allegiance. Black men and women have fought in every war the United States has ever had. Our allegiance is written in blood. The red in the red, white, and blue is black blood. So what y'all mean pledge allegiance?
What you
we ain't
mean?
got to stand up.
I love it. What you mean?
Yeah, we ain't got it. You got to pledge allegiance to us.
And they standing.
It's your turn.
Firm.
Yeah, it's your turn, America. Man, we forgave you for slavery. What else you want?
Right. Kia?
I'm listening. I'm listening.
You know, what else we got to do? That's why on every Veterans Day, I shout out to black folk. I say every black person's a veteran of a war. Because we've been in a state of war since we've been here.
Sure do. And I love
shout out to who have to fight 2 wars. You fighting a war at home for your humanity. Then you go fight a war for the country that's taking your humanity so they'll recognize your humanity. That's one hell of a patriot right there.
You damn right.
Yeah.
That's one hell of a patriot. I'm going to fight your war so you can recognize my humanity, because when I come home, me and you going to be at war.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Kia?
Yeah.
You got a question, sis?
I think
this is all divine energy. This is all divine energy. This is all divine energy.
Yeah, I guess I can go ahead and ask another question, because we're talking about I guess how certain things affect and influence individuals, especially young African American individuals. Do you feel as if social media has an effect on our culture in reference to mass incarceration and Black injustice? The things that they see in the videos with the guys saying, F the police, and going to that extent. Do you think that it's does it have a detrimental effect on social media, from social media?
I think it's both. I think that social media is a valuable tool, but it's also a machine of ignorance. A lot of bad information is being spread on social media, and that's where education is important as well. And context is important, because you can put out. I get so many messages of videos that, because I have context, I know this is fake. This ain't real. But I know a lot of people that don't have the context. You can get some bad information. It's great in that, for example, I'm working with some young college seniors and college graduates. I'm training them to be African-centered educators, and all of them have been engaged in protests in different cities throughout the country. And through social media, we've been able to link up and actually provide them with some context and empower them to make demands in the cities that they are in, and even help guide them where they want to go in their careers. I think that we use it's garbage in, garbage out. So if we're learning bad character, picking up bad character and bad moral ways in the real world, we're going to perpetuate those bad moral ways on social media, if that makes sense. I've had to with young sisters, for example, that get into arguments and fights and set up fights on social media to meet up. And you know what I'm saying? And they both of them might be fighting over a dude that ain't interested in now one of them. It's like they fighting to be the loser. Whoever wins the man is the actual loser. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoever you go with, you the one that lost.
Right.
And so these type of ideas began to be perpetuated on social media, and it can make social media dangerous. What we have to do as a community is take control of the narrative, right? And take control of the narratives that are being received by our children. I tell all the parents I work with, if you don't have all your child's usernames and passwords, you're not raising your baby. This is a new day. This is a new day. And your children have a totally different life and persona on social media than they do at the dinner table.
That's right.
And so you have to be on your guard. I had a friend who was 15 minutes away of losing his 15-year-old daughter to sex trafficking because of what she was doing and who she was engaging with on social media. Someone tricked her somewhere, and if he hadn't intercepted it and got there in time with law enforcement, she would be gone.
Wow.
So we have to be more diligent as a community, particularly with our children. Your child should not have a life on social media. Your child should not have a password that you don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it can be a powerful tool because at the same time, it can connect us globally with one another. Yeah. But as a community, we got to step in as powerful Black men and women, and we have to step in and we have to control the narrative.
Wow.
I love that. Control the narrative. I love that. And I've heard you speak on it before, and I just love when you say that, because I actually feel it when people be like, oh, that hit different. Well, why did that hit different when that didn't hit different? Like, all of it is like a Tommy gun coming at us. All of it hits me, and I feel it. Which, this is just divine order, because my other question, Baba Amin, was in the Black community, we tend to want to vilify the ones in our neighborhood. Oh, that nigga probably did it, and post a mug shot and look them up, and you don't know it happened to me, and I know it's happened to several others. We tend to, why do we vilify the ones in our own communities and our families? However, when a celebrity gets attacked, it's all in. We need to free him. We need to, that's wrong. And we have all these social media outlets and the support. And I'm not saying the support doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be there, but we're so quick to just see this person or this celebrity or this person of fame, got incarcerated, and we're ready to log off and change our profile pictures and do all this thing. I'm not changing my profile pictures, nothing, because my profile picture is my ancestors, and my family. So why is it? It's not a why, because it's not. You have to do the who, when, what, where, how, why. But in our community, we glorify famedom and attach to incarceration. But in our own homes and what we see daily, we'll walk right past and won't aid and assist, which is why we have Georges, which is why we have Oscars, which is why we have Ambualo Dualo, which is why we have Aubrey, which is why we have Sean Bell, and the countless names of our ancestors that we don't know. Many more. Their names, what happened. And I just feel that it has to be a way, and it may not be a way, Baba. It just tends to be a psychosis that we do this.
Well, I think there is a way, and again, that's where the shift in how we're educated comes into play. You and I are part of the integration generation. The formula for success when we grew up was to get a job, go to school, get a college degree, get a good job, and get out of the hood. We watched the Jeffersons move on up and leave out of the hood. We watched different strokes. Arnold and Willis got to go live with a rich white man in his penthouse. Right. And so we were raised to get out the hood. People used to come to our school and say, hang in there, you can get out. So our neighborhood didn't become something to stay in. It became something to leave. Right. And so if you ended up staying in the hood, we weren't raised to stay in the neighborhood, to develop it, to own a business, to grow it. No, if you stayed in the neighborhood, a part of you felt like a failure. I'm only here because I don't have a job that pays me enough to not be here.
Exactly.
So when we start looking at each other like that and start harboring that toxic shame is toxic. Yeah. So when we start harboring that shame and we looking at each other, well, nigga, you ain't no better than me. F you. It's your fault I'm here. No, it's your fault I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so inside of our family, we looking at each other like it's your dysfunction, that you the reason why I couldn't leave. Mama, y'all didn't have no good job. Y'all was always cussing. Nah, nigga, you didn't want to go to class. So we're arguing over something that's not even a failure. They don't have to be a failure. And while we're arguing at each other for being stuck in the hood, the Arab on the corner finna pull in $350,000 this year just with that one.
You better say.
But nobody was educated to own a store. Nobody grew up saying, man, I want to be the one with the stove. Nobody wanted to be the one with the cleaners. Nobody. So you looking, there's a Korean man in my hood sold donuts. He made so much money in 5 years. He closed up and moved back to Korea, mission accomplished.
Wow.
Selling donuts and hamburgers. But let your baby come in and say, I want to sell donuts. You don't sell no donuts. Yeah. You rather hear him say you're going to be a rapper than say you're going to sell donuts. But the Korean down the street is making donuts.
That's facts. That's so true.
And the beauty supply stores.
Yeah, the beauty supply store. Oh my God. Beautiful black women, black beauty, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We don't own it. Hip hop, $1 trillion industry. We don't own it. And we don't want to own it because we're raised with the toxic shame. But other people are coming in and say, hell, I'll sell you a lace front.
No problem.
I'll set up shop, and they take it over. And where does that money go? It leaves the neighborhood. And you go and you buy it. Then you come home and look at each other like it's your fault that I'm stuck in the hood. And we both finance another neighborhood when we go buy a hair. Now we're going to fight and pull and ruin each other's hair. It don't make no sense.
Don't make no sense.
None.
You know, and so it goes back to education. We were not educated to value what's in front of us.
That's right.
What's already in our hands. That land in the neighborhood makes money. It means something. The hood generates money. It just don't generate money for the people that's living there. And so all you're left with is the underground.
Mm-hmm.
You left with the underground economy. And then those of us that are engaged in the underground economy are not trained how to turn that underground money into above the ground money. The Italians ran the gambling rackets and then she cut a deal with the government and bought Las Vegas.
Wow.
I ain't even gonna say facts. Facts is just water. I'm not gonna
every
down with facts.
With crime.
True.
Every ethnic group. We the only ethnic group that we've been trained to be ashamed of everything negative that we do. We can't fight black justice because people say, well, what about black on black crime? But I'm like, there's no such thing. It's just crime. The reason why it's black on black is because chances are that's who you live around.
That's right.
You know, it ain't no white on white crime. Every time I look up, they find a white boy done buried 50 bodies on his farm.
Or whenever you see a Florida man, you know some shit done popped off.
Yeah.
A Florida man.
At the border, Asians are enslaving each other. You know, we don't talk about yellow on yellow crime, brown on brown crime. There are groups that do way more heinous things to each other than we do. Our narrative, that's why I say control the narrative. The black on black crime narrative is used to shame us out of fighting back.
Yeah.
Just like you do an abuse victim. You victimize an abuser, you better not tell nobody. I'm gonna tell everybody it was your fault.
Yeah.
And that's how we're treated, and that's how black injustice is related to that. You know, and it could turn, and it'll turn around when we stop being ashamed of who we are and stop allowing them to shame us out of demanding what's rightfully ours. We don't have to be the only people in the world that don't commit violence against each other in order to get justice. Everybody getting justice and they doing everything under the sun.
That's right. Well, Mr. Baba Amin, you are a very powerful person. You're very knowledgeable. Again, we're running out of time, but I want to thank you again so much for coming on a podcast and sharing your knowledge and your information with myself and Aziza and the audience. I want to allow some time for you to be able to provide your contact information. And in doing so, can you provide your social media platforms as well as the contact information for those individuals that may be interested in getting their child, set up to be a part of your academy?
Sure. All right. Well, if you're interested in the Uhuru Academy, you can go to uhuruacademy.com, UHURU academy.com. Everything you need to know is right there on the website. You can contact us at 682-233-5054, or you can email me at Baba Amin, BABAAMIN @uhuruacademy.com. We're enrolling right now for our online summer school. It's basically a half day, Monday through Friday. We're doing 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in July, 2 weeks in August. We're focusing on youth entrepreneurship, African history, and academics. And we work with young people from the ages of 6 and 16. If you're 16 years old and up and you need your high school diploma, okay, you get in contact with us the same way through our Operation Reconnect program. If you have a high school senior that didn't get all of their credits but they still have a plan, we can help them come up with a plan. We can graduate them and send them on their way. There's no reason a black child shouldn't have a high school diploma when we have the power to graduate our own babies. You know what I'm saying? So y'all get at me for that. Shout out to my whole team at Uhuru Academy, South Carolina. If you're in the Columbia, South Carolina area, go to uhuruacademysc.org and check out the powerful things that we're doing there. Want to shout out Iya Kiyante, the founder of Uhuru Academy SC. We just released our first cookbook. We released a cookbook called How to Eat to Learn, which is a raw vegan cookbook of delicious meals that can empower a parent to transition your children into healthy living without sacrificing taste. It's actually the menu that we use at the Uhuru Academy.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Give thanks.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you so much for that information. And I hope that the listeners, with you doing so, someone reaches out. I'm pretty sure someone is very interested with the knowledge that you share, and getting their child connected with that knowledge that you guys are instilling in those young individuals. Before we leave tonight, Aziza, we have a little tradition that Aziza, she does a quote based on the information, the energy for tonight. So we're going to allow her some time to leave us a quote to end the podcast for tonight.
Well,
thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
No, thank you. I'm honored, Bob. And I miss y'all. I'm gonna be coming to South Carolina.
You gotta come see us.
Yes,
you better come on.
I got to.
Hey, we have an Airbnb set up on the land.
I just want to sit in the yard, on the land, on them 4 acres.
Yes, we have an Airbnb. We got a nice Airbnb out here. Y'all, you want to get away? Y'all come on out here and hang
Southern
out.
hospitality.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
That's my quote tonight, because you were going to be our honored guest, and I respect you so much as a brother in the science of life. And this is Dr. John Henry Clark. This just came to me, and it aligns with you and what you do and how you do. You know, Bob, I've given you another word, actionist.
I saw that. I used it too. I already took it. Yep.
Actionist. And I've been saying it all week since I said that. But Baba Amin, even if it wasn't based on Hella Thoughts and Bombshell11, I'm like actionist, and I take the jewels that you give me and I internalize them and I use them, and so I appreciate that. But yeah, actionist. Dr. John Henry Clark. My energy is so high right now. I'm lit for real. I only debate with my equals. All others I teach.
Yes. And with that being said, you guys, always remember you are the bomb within your own shell, and stay down for the crown. Peace, love, and light. Good night, you guys.
Peace and power.
Peace.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate, review, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with some valuable information that can help you on your personal journey. Also, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Bombshell1111 or at Bombshell1111 TV. You can also check out our mental health page, Your Health is Your Wealth, on Facebook, which is a page created to inform and support individuals with mental health and other health conditions. And with that being said, always remember, you guys, you are a bomb within your own shell. And until next time, peace, love, and light.